We've already gotten 3 new drops from the Nightmare Critters, and now we've got Alistair Gator. But here's where it gets interesting. What does this character mean for Poppy Playtime Chapter 4, and how are we supposed to deal with him when we finally come across him? Let's break it down. Will Alistair Gator be an enemy in Chapter 4? If we look at the direction the game's going, with each of the Nightmare Critters seemingly getting their own distinct role, I have to say yes. Alistair is definitely going to be an enemy in Chapter 4, but here's the catch. I don't think he's going to be a traditional enemy. In fact, I'd say that he's more likely to be a slow, lurking threat than a fast-paced pursuer like Huggy Wuggy or even the quick-footed Icky Licky. You see, Alistair's whole deal, at least from what we've been teased so far, is patience. He's not the kind of enemy who's going to charge after you. Instead, I think Alistair is going to be the type of enemy who waits for you to make a mistake. But will we see glimpses of his personality traits when we finally come across him? Absolutely, and this is where things really get fun. Alistair's personality, that laid-back, lazy attitude, is going to play a massive role in how we interact with him in the game. I mean, we've seen it with the other Nightmare Critters, right? Icky Licky's competitiveness is likely going to translate into some kind of challenge or race. Raby Baby is all about gossip, so we'll probably see her trying to mess with the player's head, maybe by spreading misinformation or setting traps. So what about Alistair? Well, I'm willing to bet that his laziness and patience are going to factor heavily into the way we deal with him. Maybe he's lurking in the flooded areas of the factory, biding his time, waiting for the player to walk into his zone. Maybe we'll even have to outweight him, navigating through the factory without alerting him, kind of like a stealth section. But what about his scent, sandalwood? What does it symbolize? We've already seen how the scents of the other Nightmare Critters tie into their personalities. For example, Icky Licky has a coffee scent, which fits with his high energy, always on the move personality. Raby Baby's bubblegum scent matches her playful but intrusive nature. She's always in your face, sticking around whether you want her there or not. So what about Alistair? Sandalwood is a bit of a curveball, but it makes sense when you think about it. Sandalwood is calm, relaxing, and even soothing, and that fits with Alistair's lazy, patient attitude. But here's where it gets darker. Sandalwood has an earthy quality, something grounding but also ancient. It's often associated with something deeper, more spiritual, which leads me to believe that Alistair might have a more sinister side that we haven't fully seen yet. Maybe his laziness is just a cover for something more calculated. Maybe he's not just waiting for the player to make a mistake, but actively manipulating the environment around him, forcing the player into a situation where they have no choice but to face him. But why would Playtime Co. even experiment on a character like Alistair? This is one of the big questions and is definitely worth diving into. When you look at characters like Huggy Wuggy or Mommy Longlegs, it's clear that Playtime Co. was experimenting with aggression, speed, and control. But Alistair's lazy, laid back, even indifferent. So why experiment on someone like him? I think the answer lies in that patience. Alistair isn't just lazy, he's waiting. And I think that's exactly what Playtime Co. was trying to tap into. They weren't looking to create another fast, aggressive enemy. They wanted something that could outlast the player, something that didn't need to chase you down because it could just wait for you to make a mistake. In a way, that's even more terrifying. You can outrun a fast enemy, you can outsmart a fast enemy, but how do you outlast someone who's just waiting for you to mess up? But here's another question. Did the prototype have a hand in Alistair's creation? This is where things get a little tricky. We know the prototype has been involved in some of the darker, more twisted aspects of the toy experiments, manipulating events from behind the scenes. But Alistair feels different. He's got his own toy line. He's a part of the Nightmare Critters, which seems to be a separate entity from the prototype's direct influence. That said, it wouldn't surprise me if the prototype had some kind of connection to Alistair. Maybe the prototype didn't create him, but he could definitely be using Alistair as a part of his bigger plan. After all, the prototype is all about control, and what better way to to control someone than by forcing them into a situation where they're up against an enemy that they can't outrun or outfight. Now, let's take a step back and look at the Nightmare Critters logo. We've already figured out that the I in Nightmare is Baba Chops, and the R is Licky. So where does Alistair fit? Well, if you look closely at the green accents in the logo, it's pretty clear that Alistair is represented by the G. That deep earthy green matches his laid-back, swamp-dwelling nature, and I think it's a perfect fit for his role in the game. But what's even more interesting is how the logo is slowly revealing more about the lineup of critters. With each new drop, we're getting more clues about how these characters are going to fit into the larger story of Poppy Playtime. Alright, we speculated enough. Let's get into the details of who Alistair Gator really is. Alistair is described as an all-around lazy guy. If he could, he'd spend all day in the water doing next to nothing. He's not the type to hustle, not the type to chase things down. In fact, he's the complete opposite of someone like Icky Licky. Alistair believes in the philosophy that good things have to come to me eventually. He's much more about waiting for things to happen rather than making them happen. But here's the thing, just because he's lazy doesn't mean he's not dangerous. Gators in real life are ambush predators, and I think that's exactly what we're gonna see from Alistair. He's gonna wait, bide his time, and when the moment is right, he's gonna strike. But what do you guys think? Make sure to let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and click on this video right here.